Good evening. Welcome to the Costa Mesa Planning Commission meeting for Monday, October 14th, 2019. I call the meeting to order and ask that you all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Julie, roll call, please.
Chair Dirical.
Here.
Vice Chair Harlan.
Here.
Commissioner Colbert.
Present.
Commissioner Russell. Here. Commissioner Torje absent. Commissioner Zick.
Here.
Okay, thank you, Julie. We have no announcements and presentations on the agenda tonight, which brings us to public comment. To ensure fair and equal treatment of all who appear before the Planning Commission and to expedite city business, speakers may be limited to 3 minutes during public comment to speak on any item within the Planning Commission's jurisdiction, which is not listed on the agenda this evening. This time may be extended for good cause by the chair or a majority vote of the Planning Commission. Is there anyone who wishes to speak during public comment tonight? Okay. Yes, sir. Welcome.
What to say? Nice digs. You know, folks that I've talked to said I should come down here and read off my ABC Citizens Complaint Log about the jokers to the left of me. Is that how that song goes? Fools to the left of me and jokers to the right. Let's talk about the fools to the left of me. All right, so Friday night, 9 o'clock, the bar starts up. Pretty loud, pretty ballsy, you know. Someone comes to town first night, bang the neighborhood good. Happens now 3 weekends in a row, Friday night. Up until the wee hours of the morning. Saturday night, oh, wait. The joker to the right of me, another ABC licensed premises, man, at 6 a.m. Here we go. They're going to pound on us for the entire day with all kinds of crazy racket that is not white noise in any stretch of the imagination. Not a bit of it. And then Saturday night shows up, and that bar kicks in once again, 9 o'clock. Goes till 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, we're watching the movie, trying to, you can't sleep, so you watch a movie, and you watch a movie at a normal, comfortable listening volume, and the bar's coming right through. 4 or 5 doors down, I believe. That's what my neighbors tell me. 5 o'clock in the morning Sunday, the cleanup crew arrives. We got buckets, mops, hoses, door slamming, lots of talking. The talking, man. And of course, the guy next door at 6 a.m., he starts in again. Now, every one of y'all received an email from me the first weekend after the start of the school year. And along that chain of communication, y'all were presented with a video of a very empowered demonstration from one of my neighbors, a business. 7 o'clock in the morning, somebody's got that much gall to come out and blast our neighborhood with their car radio, driving close to the houses for 10, 15 minutes. Y'all have an issue here. And I'm going to suss it out for you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak for public comment? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
Is this the appropriate time to discuss the signage of the fair?
No, it would be when that item comes up, sir. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I'll close public comment. And that will take us to commissioner comments, and we'll begin with Commissioner Russell. Do you have any comments tonight? Okay, Commissioner Zick? Commissioner Colbert.
Yeah, this month is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I'm wearing pink in support of that. About 1 in 8 women will be impacted in the U.S. with breast cancer awareness at some point in their lives throughout the U.S. So I just wanted to raise awareness of that. Find more information about it at cdc.org. I'll be wearing pink throughout this month.
Thank you very much. Good message. Vice Chair Harlan.
Nothing tonight.
Okay. Couple of things for me. One, just to echo off of Commissioner Colbert's remarks, and the only admonition is, ladies, get your examinations done. And then the second part is I wanted to acknowledge the study session related to the 6-cycle housing element coming up and our arena cycle that will be paralleling that. The council held a study session last week. And I just wanted to commend Mr. Curtis and his staff in Manu, who gave a very comprehensive, thorough presentation on what this next housing element means for Costa Mesa, what the RENA numbers are likely to be and what they mean for us, and for the council's exceptional questions, I thought, about how we're going to proceed and kind of the generalized directions they want to go to relative to that. So it was very informative for me. It's an issue I'm very interested in and look forward to the work process that we move through over the next 18 months or so, maybe a little bit longer as we move through that process. So with that, I want to then move to the consent calendar. And we have one item on the consent calendar tonight. And if are there any motions for the consent calendar, or a commissioner or a member of the public wishes to pull the item? Vice Chair Harlan.
I move we approve the consent calendar.
Okay, can I have you punch the motion button? Great. Is there a second? Okay, so the motion on the floor is to approve the consent calendar by Vice Chair Harlan, seconded by Commissioner Russell. Call for the question.
That motion carried 5-0 with Commissioner Torje absent.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Julie, public hearing item number 1, please.
Public hearing item number 1, planning application 19-17 for a conditional use permit to allow a restaurant and a bar with live entertainment to operate after 11 p.m. at the Shops at Mesa Verde Shopping Center, 1555 Adams Avenue, Suite 100. This item was continued from the September 9th, 2019 and the September 23rd, 2019 Planning Commission meetings. This is a call to report any ex parte communications.
Commissioners, any communications to report on this item? Okay, I will report that I've had one conversation regarding this application with Mr. Justin McCusker of CJ Segerstrom Mesa Verde Partners. Ms. Nguyen.
Thank you, and good evening, Chair DeArco and fellow commissioners. The item before you tonight is a conditional use permit, or CUP, to allow a restaurant bar to operate past 11 p.m., as well as have live entertainment. The new restaurant is called Kenwood's Kitchen and Tap. So Kenwood proposes to locate in an existing shopping center, the Shops at Mesa Verde. The property address is 1555 Adams Avenue. The shopping center includes Vaughn's Supermarket, a variety of other dining options, and other neighborhood-serving retail businesses. So the shopping center is zoned as PDC, or Planned Development Commercial. The property also includes the existing senior apartment community Azalon, which is to the rear of the shopping center. So here's a site plan of the Shops at Mesa Verde. Kenwood's is one of 4 tenants in the new multi-tenant building that replaced the former Sioux Plantation building. Kenwood proposes to locate in Suite 100, which includes approximately 3,600 square feet of interior dining and back-of-the-house area. It also includes, there's also approximately 1,100 square foot of outdoor patio dining area. The Shops at Mesa Verde will be Kenwood's first location. So these are the photos of the exterior of Suite 100. Kenwood's is a family-friendly restaurant with a chef-driven menu. The bar will feature local craft beer as well as specialty wine and spirits. Kenwood's will be applying for a Type 47 liquor license, which is also known as a full liquor license for a restaurant. So a CUP is required a CUP is required for the sale of alcohol past 11 p.m. and for the live entertainment, especially when the establishment is located within 200 feet of residentially zoned properties. So Kenwood does propose to operate until 2 a.m. on Friday, Saturday, as well as holidays, specifically federal holidays. All other days of the week will be open until 11 p.m. The kitchen hours will remain open during normal business hours of operation. Live entertainment is proposed primarily on the weekends and would be limited to the interior space of the restaurant. The entertainment would not include a dance floor. An example of live entertainment could be music performances from local musicians. So this is a floor plan, proposed floor plan of the restaurant. And you can see that the live entertainment area makes up a small portion of the interior dining space. So even though the restaurant is in a shopping center that's within 200 feet of residential zone property, the multi-tenant restaurant building itself is actually about approximately 450, if not more, feet away from the nearest home along the west side. The homes would further be buffered by the shopping center's parking lot. Furthermore, the police department has reviewed and did not express concerns with the proposed request. The CUP will also include several conditions of approval, including the following. So condition number 2, which limits the live entertainment to be indoors only. Condition number 3, which imposes certain consequences for any CUP violations. And condition number 4, which requires the applicant to institute whatever measures necessary to ensure that their business is conducted in a good neighborly manner. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission find that the project is categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act per CEQA Guidelines Section 15301, as well as approve planning application 19-17, subject to the conditions of approval. This concludes my presentation, and I am available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Nguyen, for your report. Commissioners, any questions of staff on this one's at the outset? Commissioner Colbert?
I just have a couple of quick questions for you. As it relates to sound, will there be any exterior speakers that will provide sound on the patio area at all?
There will be no speakers out in the outdoor patio.
All right. And just our understanding of consistency, does Descano or the restaurant, the Mexican restaurant adjacent to it, do they have a CUP or do they have live entertainment or provide services to those same hours?
Descanso was approved, actually was not approved through a CUP just because it does operate within the allowable hours per the zoning code. Descanso opens until 11 p.m. and they do not provide live entertainment, at least not currently.
Okay, and the recommended hours for this CUP are consistent with other CUPs throughout the city for live entertainment?
I think if your question is consistency throughout the city, staff does tailor our recommendations for hours of operation to businesses adjacent, and the hours of operation are consistent with adjacent businesses.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Zick.
Thank you, sir. Nancy, my question, if you could turn to page 6 of your presentation. I think it was page 6 or 7.
The site plan, or?
We'll start with the site plan.
Okay.
We'll start with that one. And what I'm specifically making sure I understand is the orientation relative to the condition of approval that states that during the periods of live entertainment, access between the interior dining space and the outdoor patio space will be limited to the entry door along the north side of the building, the north side being the Adams Avenue side, correct?
Correct.
And the patio area is predominantly on the south side and also a small area on the west side, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so could you, so I want to be clear on this. Could you then go, yeah.
Probably to
So-
the floor plan.
Oh, no, that's good. So the rightmost picture is showing the door that's on the north side. That's correct?
Oops, sorry, the photo to the right, you said?
Yeah, of the three pictures, the one on the farthest right.
That would be the door that's actually facing the west side. I unfortunately do not have a view of the entrance door coming off of Adams Avenue. So this is if you were standing in the parking lot, interior parking lot side, looking into the main front entrance, which is the left photo. To the photo in the center, it kind of shows the beginning of the outdoor patio. And then the photo to the right is kind of wraps around that outdoor patio.
Okay. Either I'm not understanding the picture or maybe I'm not explaining it right. It appears to me as if in that right-hand picture, the end of the building
There's
is
a
the
door.
west side. And then just to the left of that, obviously, would be the north side. Where you see the hedge?
Yes, I understand what you're saying now. Yeah, if
Okay.
you were to keep going, if you were to walk further down towards the left, it would be, yes, the north
That's
side
the north
entrance.
side. And so that
Correct.
first door that you see near the corner, is that the north door that would be used during periods of live entertainment?
Yes, because that door does not face out, or music or any sound wouldn't project out towards the west side, which is the nearest residential zone properties.
Understand that. I'll ask the applicant the same question, but I'd want to make sure that's the door you're referring to. That's the only door that will be able to be used for access from the interior to the patio area during live entertainment.
Based on the floor plan configuration, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Just clarification purposes for me, I want to understand if we go back to the site plan, or actually the, just the overview map that shows the boundaries of the property. It's nice and colorful, I think. Perfect. From my understanding, that is one parcel. That is not multiple parcels. So there's one APN number essentially?
My understanding is it is multiple properties, but it's under one ownership.
Okay.
And I could take a look to see if it
Okay.
is multiple APNs.
All right. So, well, the only reason I'm asking is essentially, while it is, we're here for a CUP tonight because I guess I'm wondering where the boundaries are for the various parcels, because measuring the 250 feet or the 200 feet versus the 400 feet we're at, if we're measuring across another parcel, it's kind of what's the point?
In cases, it's not uncommon for shopping centers in particular to
Sure.
be made up of multiple parcels.
Right.
For purposes of noticing when the parcels are tied together, for example, because they're a parking lot serving one shopping center, we will measure from the outside boundary.
Okay, that's perfect. Good answer. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I will open the public hearing and ask the applicant to come forward, please. Are you the applicant? Sir, have you read the staff report and the conditions of approval, and do you agree with them? Okay, the floor is yours.
All right, I just wanted to clarify that was an east door. It's not a north door.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, all right, hear you. Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Go ahead, sir, start
I
again.
just want to clarify that on the building, it was the east door is going to be the access in and out. It's not on the north Adams side. That's why I came up early. So I was just here. Nancy did a great job. My name is Ken Kinwood. It's my first restaurant. I've been in the industry for 35 years and decided to kind of go out on my own and do my own restaurant. So I'm just here to answer any questions.
Okay, commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Zick.
And could I ask staff to put page 7 of the presentation back up? So the staff report indicates the north door, and what you're saying is your intention is not to use the north door, but to use the east door during periods of live entertainment? Is that what you're saying?
The north door on the floor plan, if you go back to the floor plan, is actually on the Adams side. That's a
It's a delivery door.
Yeah, it's a utility door.
I know, that's why I'm asking that question. It didn't
That's a
seem
utility door.
practical.
So no, that's not the door we would be using. We'd be using the east door with obviously fire. They'd have to have access to get out of the building, in off hours after 11 o'clock. But we would be using that east door just in and out of the restaurant.
And the east
yes.
door is the picture, that's like the main entrance door. It's the one we see on the far left.
The far left, yes, yes.
Okay, and that's not bad because that is not facing residential. It's actually
Yes.
probably more protected.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I don't think I have any questions immediately. I may after public comment. So unless any of the commissioners have any questions for the applicant, thank you, sir. I'll have you take a seat, and then we'll open this for public comment portion of the public hearing. And if any member of the public wishes to speak to this item, please come forward. Yes, sir.
3 minutes goes by pretty quick.
It does.
Begging. Yeah, begging. Bear with me. I didn't get to finish. But it's so great, synchronicity, if you will, that this subject matter happened to be on the calendar. So the last entry that I want to say in my log was that it's Sunday. I've got the...
Sir, are you going to
Excuse
speak
me.
to this item?
Let me finish, please.
Well, no, what I want to know is if you're going
Yes,
to
I'm
speak.
speaking with this item. Thank you.
Okay,
So
please.
if things go sideways, this is the potential. Let's tie it together. There's the nexus. Thank you. If things go sideways, all right, so here we are with this bar now. And they've got their cleaning crew at 5 in the morning, banging away after keeping us up till 2. And guess what? This is the third weekend in a row now at noon. We start again. At noon on Sunday, noon to 5. My kid has homework. My neighbor's kids have homework. Now, let's tie it to this project. Now, I don't know anything about this project. I scanned through it, walked in the door and says, wow. I'll tell you a story, it's a true story. On the way here, hadn't been here in a while. I says, God, I got to get something to eat. Stopped at Boston Chicken, and the lady in line says, what are you up to? And I was chatting away, and he says, I'm going to City Hall, man. I'm living next to a nuisance. And she said, I just heard about this thing going on where the old soup plantation is going on. Is it going to be noisy? I'm going to be complaining. And I'm going to tell you all this. Now, their building probably here, newer, can contain sound, unlike the other one that I live next to, which can't contain sound, according to their own sound engineers, 400 feet. Measure it from Strut Bar, currently called Strut, to the back of the AutoZone parking lot, right over which is residential, and they will absolutely hear it according to an operation that is running within the municipal noise ordinance. It's going to be audible 400 feet. And when complaints come in, this is what happens when I call the cops about Strut Bar. You know what they say at dispatch? Right away? Go to City Hall. This commission, a previous iteration, did the exact same thing. They used live entertainment to undermine CC&R 61.4. Please look it up. It says within 100 feet, the way they define the measurement, this liquor license may be conditioned. I urge you to look at the liquor license before conditioning the property. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this item? Okay, I will close the public comment portion of the public hearing. Sir, would you come back up? I have one question for you. Sure. So we had a CUP application for a restaurant down on Newport Boulevard a couple of months ago. And the live entertainment portion of that application was conditioned where live entertainment was permitted until 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday and until midnight Friday through or Saturday. I can't remember what it is, but I think staff may be able to help me. Would you be amenable to limiting live entertainment to 10 p.m. on Monday through Thursday or Tuesday through Thursday, and I'll find the exact language, and midnight on the weekends?
Sure. The Sunday through Thursday, whatever is currently there, I'm fine with, and even midnight on the weekend, I'm fine with that.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Any commissioners, any other questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you, sir, very much. I will close the public hearing and ask if the commissioners have any final questions of staff.
I did have, staff just has one kind of point of clarification.
Yes.
Just so we're all clear that the door, the main door that would be used during the live entertainment will be the main restaurant entry, which is along the east side, as the applicant has indicated. Staff incorrectly identified the delivery door.
I figured that's what it was. Not a big deal. You still get an A for your report. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move staff recommendation that we find the project is categorically exempt from the provisions of California Environmental Quality Act per CEQA guidelines, section 15301, existing facility, and approve planning application 19-17 based on the findings in Exhibit A and the conditions of approval in Exhibit B with the amendment to the providing of live entertainment to 10 p.m. on weekdays and midnight on the weekends. And I'm referring Ms. Lee and Ms. Nguyen to the live entertainment conditions that were placed on the hub at the council meeting. And I think the midnight hour was the limit on the weekend and 10 p.m. on, midnight on the weekends and 10 p.m. on the weekdays. And that's my motion. There we go. Thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Harlan. Is there any comment on the motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Zick.
just a clarifying question for you. So the hours of operation of the restaurant are still as stated in condition of approval 1, meaning 11 p.m. Monday through Thursday and 2 a.m. Friday, Saturday, and holidays. The restriction that you have added in your motion applies only to the live entertainment. Is that correct?
Correct. That is absolutely correct. Live entertainment to 10 p.m. On the 11 p.m. closing days and midnight on the 2 a.m. closing days.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Chair, if I may, I'd also like to clarify that
Yes.
your motion was intended to modify condition of approval number 2, which references the north side door for access. We will modify that to the east side door, as discussed.
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Lee.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor and a second. Are there any comments on the motion? Okay, seeing none, call for the question.
That motion carried 5-0 with Commissioner Torje absent.
All right, and that decision is final unless appealed to the city council within 7 days. Good luck, sir. Thank you very much. Wherever he went. There he is. Okay, Julie, next public hearing item, please.
Public hearing item number 2, zoning application 19-23 for a planned signing program for the Orange County Fair and Event Center located at 88 Fair Drive. This is a call to report any ex parte communications.
Thank you, Julie. Commissioners, any communications to report? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Arias, the floor is yours.
Okay, good evening, Chair, Commissioners. As Julie described, the project is for a planned signing program for the OC Fair and Event Center, including 6 new freestanding LED signs, as well as 3 illuminated wall signs. The project site is located at 88 Fair Drive and is occupied by the Orange County Fair and Event Center. The site is bounded by Arlington Drive, Newport Boulevard, Fair Drive, and Fairview Road, and the site is approximately 150 acres in size. As described in the report, and because the property is state-owned, the city has limited land use and permitting authority. The property is zoned INR institutional and recreational and has a general plan land use designation of fairgrounds. It should be noted that the OC Fair and Event Center is the only property in the city with the general plan land use designation of fairgrounds. Surrounding properties have similar INR zoning designations, as well as R1 single-family residential across Fairview Road and one C1 local business property on the corner of Fair Drive and Fairview Road. Proposed signs that comply with code requirements are reviewed and approved over the counter by planning staff. However, planned signing programs are typical for larger sites where multiple signs are proposed with different designs, which allows for coordinated design. Deviations from the sign code may be authorized through an approval of a planned signing program. As proposed, the planned signing program for the Orange County Fair and Event Center includes electronic changeable signs, the LED signs, and also exceeds sign height and area, which is permitted by the INR zone. Planned signing programs are typically reviewed by the city zoning administrator. However, the project has been referred to the Planning Commission to determine whether the project warrants approval of this proposed signs. Here's a site plan of the property, including all of the signs and proposed signs on site. Currently, there are 3 existing LED signs on the 3 corners of the property. There is also 1 existing LED sign located at the main entrance to the property, Gate 1. And there are also 2 legal non-conforming billboard signs along Newport Boulevard. The 6 freestanding LED signs are shown in the red circles, and the proposed wall signs are shown in the blue circles. The majority of the signs are proposed to be on state property. However, some of the signage located along Arlington Drive either encroaches in or is located in the public right-of-way. And for these specific signs, an encroachment permit will be processed by the engineering division. This table on the slide shows the signage that currently exists on site. The left portion of the table, or the left side of the screen, shows the signage that is proposed to remain. And then the right side of the table are signage that is proposed to be replaced. Overall, the existing signage on site is a total of 445.5 square feet. I've highlighted these red boxes. These are the areas where the major changes are from the existing signs and proposed signs. For the proposed signs, the change is for the freestanding signs, which change in height and actually decrease in size slightly. Overall, the new planned signing program proposes a total of 439.5 square feet of signage. Based on the INR zoning designation of the property, code allows a maximum of 45 square feet of total sign area per street frontage and a maximum of 30 square feet of freestanding signage per street frontage. In keeping with the design of the existing signage theme, the proposed freestanding signs include a black aluminum cabinet with vinyl printed graphics, a stone veneer finish at the base of the sign, an aluminum roof with an orange faux flag, as well as the city's logo. All proposed signs will be double-faced signs with the exception of the sign located on Newport Boulevard. The design of the wall signs also include a black cabinet with vinyl printed graphics, and then also includes an aluminum roof and orange faux flag. The intent of the sign code is to regulate the type, size, and placement of signage on properties to balance the identification and communication needs of businesses, while also considering safety for the citizens to prevent an uncluttered environment. In this instance, the state could preempt local zoning regulations. However, the OC Fair and Event Center team has opted to propose the plan signing program to be reviewed by the city as a plan signing program. Although the proposed sign program does not comply with all development standards of the code, it is consistent with the intent of the zoning code and general plan land use designation for the property. The proposed signs would be replacing existing signs. Though the sign area exceeds standards, it is less than the existing signage on site. And although sign height exceeds standards, it is appropriate given the size of the property and use. In addition, the proposed electronic signs are appropriate for this site and land use designation due to the frequency and variety of events that occur on site, and will help address the need for clear and effective wayfinding to limit impacts onto the city streets. The subject property is approximately 150 acres in size, and all the freestanding signs are located more than 300 feet from one another. Furthermore, the proposed electronic signs incorporate a black background with colored lettering. The nearest sign is approximately 130 feet from the nearest residential property. The signs are conditioned to not incorporate flashing, moving, or intermittent lighting, and have the capability to display specific text for various activities and events, which will better serve the fairgrounds site. Staff's recommendation includes conditions of approval related to the proposed signs, as well as requirements to mitigate impacts to residential uses and to obtain an encroachment permit through the city's engineering division. To provide additional information and clarification for consideration for the Planning Commission, staff revised condition of approval number 2, letter D, as shown on the screen. Staff's language on the slide allows for the usage of signage on Fairview Road for late evening events at the discretion of the director, while establishing an expectation for the residents to ensure that the signs will be turned off by a specific time. I did also want to note that staff did receive one public comment in regard to the project, which has been provided to the commission. And with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution to find the project categorically exempt from CEQA and approve zoning application 1923 subject to conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions, and the applicant also has a short presentation prepared.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Arias, very much for your report. Commissioners, any questions of Mr. Arias? I have one. The limit of hours of operations on D6. Curious as to why we wouldn't also require that on D5, as it faces somewhat some of the residential community, that first residential community on Vanguard, across from City Park.
Yes, staff felt with the orientation of the sign and with the buffer of the park that it wasn't necessary to include that one as well.
Okay. Thank you. Vice Chair Harlan?
Yes.
Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll direct this to Mr. Arias, although Mr. Preziosi might require your input as well. So I wanted a little clarification on the fact that the applicant is proposing a planned sign program and what the extent of our authority or jurisdiction is. Is this a matter of the fair essentially conceding their land use authority by participating in our planned sign program?
Mr. Preziosi.
Thank you, Vice Chair Harlan. It's candidly unclear to me exactly what the state is doing. I'm not aware of an official request from the state or an official concession by the state that they are acquiescing to the city's land use authority. Now, certainly an argument to be made by making that request and going through this process that they may be a stop from later asserting that they are not subject to it. However, candidly, I would like to have hear a little more information from the applicant on that issue.
Okay, and we'll be sure to ask that question. Anything else, Vice Chair? Okay, so we will open the public hearing on this item and ask the applicant to come forward. Good evening, sir. I would ask if you've read the staff report, findings, and conditions of approval, and if you agree with them. One. Oh, let me turn the mic on. My bad. Now you're
Thank
good.
you. Testing.
Yeah.
Yes, I did, and yes, I do.
And with respect to your bringing an application to the city for a sign program vis-a-vis your own government entity, are you, maybe you can explain to us why you're doing that and actually address some of the city attorney's comments with respect to any concession of land use authority on your part?
No problem. First of all, let me just thank the commission for your consideration on this project. Also want to thank city staff. We set out to follow the city process after the Arlington Street project, which started a year ago. So again, thanks to city staff, Dan Inlows, Jennifer Lee, Brad Edwards, and of course Justin Arias, for helping us kind of through the whole process. This is a new process for us, but one that we were committed to moving forward on as good neighbors. So my name is Jason Jacobson. I'm the Director of Technology and Production. I have been with the OC Fair and Event Center for almost 15 years. I actually have, I wear many hats over there. You might be asking, what's a tech guy working on signs? I have over 20 years experience doing graphic design and have been involved in a lot of different projects across the street over the years. So with some of the question that you asked, there are some information in some of the slides that I wanted to kind of go through that I think would help explain. A lot of this whole project really stems from the Arlington Street project.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay. Great, thanks. So why are we doing this? In 2018, the Arlington Street project moved forward, removing 3 of our gate signs that were along Arlington Drive. We lost Gate 4, Gate 5, and Gate 8, which are pretty heavily trafficked gates. Since then, we have had temporary Windmaster signs as replacements that are about 41 inches wide by 55 inches tall. One of our largest challenges during fair and year-round events has been traffic and wayfinding. So we feel part of this project is to be able to provide some real-time communication to our patrons from our traffic team that are always struggling with the issue. When I started working at the fair in 2005, the fair hit its 1 millionth patron. Last year, we celebrated over 1.4 million people. So the fair has seen tremendous growth. We've had year-round growth activity. We really believe strongly we need to help staff with the right tools to better do their jobs. So why this design? One of the things we noticed after the Arlington Street project was done, there are landscape crews that use the bike trail with their trucks, large box trucks and stake beds that go down there for their services. We were concerned seeing that, knowing that we needed to move in this direction. Some of that was factored into the design, having a 13-foot minimum for the LED. On property, typically our lowest point is 14 feet as a standard because we've had some damages over the years and vehicles running into signs and damaging them. The overall height, 25 feet tall, part of that is dictated by the LED height. Also, with the Arlington Street project, our gate signs that were there along Arlington were roughly 6 to 12 feet from the street and are now going to be 22 feet away. So we thought that that added height would be a benefit. We also worked with city staff to incorporate the city logo to show our partnership on this project. The colors and other elements match existing signage on grounds. We're also currently in the process of a branding review. So colors and logos may change depending on the results of that, but the way that the signs are being designed, the structure itself wouldn't necessarily change. It would be more graphical in color changes within the same structure. Some additional supporting information. The parking study we conducted provided several recommendations, which included illuminated gate signs, larger fonts on the gate signs, changeable messages, and the use of LED messaging. Currently, right now, all of our gate signs that we've had have never had any kind of illumination at all. So part of the operational plans for us for these LEDs, we don't want them to be an issue for the residents. We definitely respect that. We're not going to be doing any advertising on these LED signs, just text only. Again, it's for traffic and wayfinding, mainly for our traffic team. Programmed to turn off after events are over. And then the Gate 3 sign adjacent to the houses will be dimmed also. Part of the overall project process for us, this was kind of viewed as a sign upgrade replacement project and was approved in our capital budgets and would be installed as budget permits. Our plan was not to do all 9 signs in one approach. We would be phasing these in over the next probably 2 to 3 years potentially, as budget allows. We met with the city staff going on a year ago now to provide us the guidance and start the process for approval. Staff recommended we include the other LED signs and billboards that you saw in the presentation on property, which we agreed with. Process was new for us, so we wanted to make sure we were following all the appropriate steps. But again, what we envisioned was first major hurdle for us was following the city process and getting approval to then proceed on the entire project. Next steps, if approved, we would start construction drawings and details, most likely go out to bid in 2020, and then overall wayfinding project may take 2 to 3 years as budget permits. A lot of work would still be remaining to be done on our part. I actually had a couple other slides. This is the current gate signage. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it. Believe these signs went in around 2000. They've never had illumination. We've done some slidable signs that unfortunately were always vandalized and stolen from passerbys that were just walking down the sidewalk. Another reason why we want to go with kind of a more elevated and LED solution so it won't be tampered with. The height of that is 6.5 feet, or excuse me, 12.5 feet tall by 6.5 feet wide. So the new version would be double that height there. This is just a reference. And that's pretty much it for my presentation.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioners, any questions of the applicant? Commissioner Zick.
Thank you, Jason. The presentation was helpful to me in understanding your project a little better. You're going to have an opportunity to respond to any public comments that you may want to. My question for you is, have you seen the correspondence that was sent into the commission this afternoon that had concerns about this project?
If it's the same one we received in our board, then yes, I would have to see what that one is specifically.
So it's.
Can I
I'm
ask
sorry.
a question
Yeah,
after public comment then?
It's a letter from Friends and Neighborhoods of the Orange County Fairgrounds?
Yes.
Mr. Polmeyer?
Yes.
Okay, you've seen
Yes.
that letter? Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. So I wanted to ask you if you had a reaction or response to that. And the aspect of the letter that caught my attention that I'd like you to try to respond to is what I'll call the process aspect that seemed to suggest the board hadn't seen this, and yet here it is in front of the city. Could you speak to that issue a little bit?
Sure. I think part of that is
Thank you.
with the Arlington Street project, we know we lost gate signs. It's been a struggle for our parking team to deal with that. This last year for fair, we received numerous complaints on traffic and wayfinding. I mean, it's not unusual. We've been receiving those for years. This year seemed to be a little bit worse. The temporary signs, it seems like it's been challenging for year-round events. Everybody kind of struggling with seeing those. For years, our other regular gate signs that we still have at gate 2, 3, and 10, we would get feedback from patrons and public that those were not very visible, including our parking study.
Could I interrupt you for a
Sure.
second? You may be getting to it, but maybe you didn't understand. I'm wondering about the concern about the board not having seen and
Yes.
approved this.
Yes.
You're getting to that?
Yes.
Okay.
I was almost there.
All right.
So the board is aware that we are working towards wayfinding signage for the property. Again, this was a replacement, not, the budget was approved by the board. They haven't seen the drawings specifically, like what's being shown here today. Part of the process for us was we wanted to follow the city process and get approval to be able to then move forward.
Thank you for your answer.
Sure.
Thank you. Let me ask you just a design question. Power for these signs, are these already stubbed out? Or is the power coming from the fairgrounds, or is it coming from the right-of-way in the street somewhere?
They would be coming from the fairgrounds, but we have not started that. There is no power out there at all. So that
So you
is-
you don't envision breaking any streets, opening any streets up or any sidewalks to get to power?
No. I think all the intercepts would come from the property, for
Okay,
sure.
thank you. Commissioners, any other questions of the applicant? Vice Chair Harlan.
Sure. Thank you for the presentation. And you noted at the outset that, and it's, I think on this slide that we have before us, you included the city's logo on the signage. And I think that's a good gesture that this is a partnership, and obviously the city is inextricably involved in the fair and linked to it. Sure. Having said that, though, I have some concerns about the city's logo and name being attached to something that the board may not necessarily have approved at this point. So I'll just offer the comment that I'm a little bit concerned that the cart might be before the horse at this point. But you did say something in your presentation that I thought was a little curious. You mentioned something about possibly phasing this program over a period of time.
Yes, we will install and build these signs as budget allows.
Okay, so my general question is, if you're trying to do some comprehensive management of traffic and circulation, how is that impeded by doing a phased signage program?
Well, again, we were attempting to do more of a replacement of the current signs because it's going to go in the same locations, but we wanted to do enhancements for sure and add more current technology that would allow for a better function.
So if I understand you correctly, there's some prioritization. There's certain gates that need to be replaced
Absolutely.
at first, and then...
Absolutely.
Okay. And the staff report also mentioned I guess it was a parking study that was done in 2013.
Correct.
We weren't given a copy of that, so I don't know what the methodology was or the recommendations, but it seemed like broadly the recommendation was some signage would be necessary to improve. Were there any specific recommendations as far as location or quality or height or?
Yes, there were several recommendations. I know I did send a copy over that to staff. Specifically for gates, there was mention of larger fonts, changeable messages, and then there was also the mention of LED messaging as well.
All right, and I guess my last question still deals with the fact that this is a city plan sign program, and what is the city's actual jurisdiction over that? So I just maybe will ask you bluntly, by applying for this, are you agreeing that the city has complete jurisdiction over this program, and whatever would be approved, conditions or otherwise, is something that the fair is going to subject itself to?
Good evening. My name is Ken Carnes. I'm the Vice President of Operations for the OC Fair and Event Center.
Thank you, sir. Please.
And thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to address a few of the comments a little more thoroughly, so hopefully we can answer. There were signs that do encroach onto city property. So in that, we felt it best to walk ourselves through the entire city process and follow it. If we're ultimately denied, we would have to take it back to our board for direction to see if they wanted to proceed with signage 100% onto the state property. They would be less effective. However, they may ultimately decide that they want something versus nothing. It's our desire to follow the program. We don't have the power or authority to acquiesce in its entirety this program. As it relates to the communication with the board, it was put in front of the board in the November and December 2018 budget meetings. It has also been communicated in updates in the months past, as early as even last month's board meeting. So we have kept the board apprised of the progress that we're engaged in with the city. As it relates to the cart before the horse, we had those discussions. Actually, cart before the horse was in Jason's presentation. We took it out. When we worked on the A4M Skyhawk project with the county, we went for full county approval first before it came back to our board. So there was the logic in saying, where would we end up with the city before we take it back to the full board to move forward? If there's no project to move forward on, there's nothing to continue with our board on. So we thought this was based on the experience we had with the A4M Skyhawk move, we'd do the same thing here with this project. I hope that clarifies.
Commissioner Colbert, you thought about a question. Are you, or?
Yeah,
Please.
I think I need clarification on something. The board that you're referencing in your comments now, is this the same board as that's referenced in this letter to friends and neighbors? No. Right. In the past, have you worked with this nonprofit, the Friends and Neighbors of Orange County, on decisions similar to this?
No.
No. So this is out of step as far as your approvals process or thinking about how you all make decisions.
Correct.
They've never been engaged in that way.
No.
Is that something that you would be amenable to, given that you are trying to be a good partner and trying to create good partnerships? Is this something, working with them and sitting at a table to discuss the signage plan and the parking plan to properly adjust these issues for the city moving forward? Is that something that you're open to?
I think part of this whole process, I would say that we are open to it. That's why we wanted to move this direction. We don't have to follow the permitting process, but we wanted to move it forward that way and hopefully have a successful outcome.
Right, yeah, and I understand that, which is, when you do something, you want to obviously do it right as well. So in thinking about that, and since this is such a major shift and you want, like, I work in campus planning and the number one issue is wayfinding.
Right.
And so the best way to get that is hear from the community, and you obviously have a group of people saying that they have ideas. And so I'm just curious if you would postpone or be interested in postponing, saying that you're going to phase it into 2 to 3 years before you go out to bid and speak with this organization before moving forward, or is that something that you're not even entertaining?
We believe this is strictly an operational issue. We've consulted with all of our internal staff. The one that struggles with that functionality and not having those proper tools, and everybody is on board with this direction.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Russell.
Sorry, can I round out the answer to that
You
question?
bet, and then Commissioner Russell has a question for you. So go
a-
ahead.
Again, with regards to public input, following the city process, we know that there's public input here, and we value that input. Also, our board meetings are fully public. We take public input at our board meetings. So they're not restricted or ignored. We definitely take those comments to heart. If at the direction of one of our committees or our board, they will request of staff to sit with a group, we would be happy to.
Okay, Commissioner Russell.
Yeah, because I think this is going to impact the community. Is there any kind of measurement of how far these lights are going to go and the impact of the height on the neighborhood? Have you done any kind of studies like that?
Any photometric studies?
No photometric studies, no. I know part of the technology allows for, 0 to 100 dimming control. And again, it's our intention to not have any negative impact out in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Okay. All right, sir, thank you. I'll have you take a seat. I'm going to open the public comment portion of the public hearing and ask if there's anyone who wishes to speak to this item. Please come forward. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Commission. Jay Humphrey, Costa Mesa resident. This is definitely a place of ready, shoot, aim process, as you got it right, cart before the horse. This is not, to my knowledge, and I'm pretty informed on a lot of things. To my knowledge, this has never actually come to the board as a signage project, as an expense project, absolutely by itself. These signs are probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000 a piece, 6 of them, that's $200,000. I doubt that the staff can actually approve $200,000 on their own signature. So that's an issue that I would want to look at, because the board has been very common and the staff has made comment. They want to be good neighbors. Well, let's let them be good neighbors by having public comment on items that will directly affect the neighborhoods. As you so noted, we don't know how bright those lights are going to be, how much they're going to affect. And as you noted, over in the Arlington people, while it's buffered by the gas station and the business right there, boy, I'll bet you those people are not going to be real happy if that gets into their housing right there at the corner, right behind the gas station. So it's going to affect people. We just need to know about whether it does or it doesn't, how it does. And we don't have that because we have no public input of any kind. I was very concerned about the fact I tried to pull this up at the fairgrounds, couldn't pull it up off their website, couldn't pull it off this website after the sign was in the ground. Only when it was actually released onto this agenda was the staff report available of any of the data. That concerns me, that it is not being seen by the public yet and seen effectively to make fair comment about it. So my basic consideration is simple that. Also, we have one other factor. There seems to be no parking or transportation plan in place. So you're making signs to direct traffic and parking, but you don't have that plan in place right now. I had received comments and complaints from people over in Mesa Del Mar, where my daughter lives, as a matter of fact, and I went and I took a seat and I sat down at the corner of Presidio and Junipero on the last Friday of the last Saturday of the fair, pardon me. And people drove in and the traffic backed up and backed up and backed up till in fact it was almost not movable. Can I just finish the thought process?
You have 30 seconds.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
My fault. I thought that was my ding.
Actually, 20.
Okay. So anyway, the bottom line was that I had people stopping and ask me where they could park. And they were stopped in traffic and so bad in that intersection at that time that they were looking for parking. So the idea of a parking plan that does not actually address to the public is a problem that needs to be dealt with.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Vincent Polmeyer. I'm Director of Friends and Neighbors of the Orange County Fairgrounds. And I apologize for dumping a 9-page letter on you just hours before this meeting, but unfortunately it was necessary because of a number of factors. One is that despite the fact that there was a budget line item mentioning signing in a couple of meetings, this plan has never been presented to the Fair Board. In fact, I spoke with one of the members of the 32nd DAA board, Doug LaBelle, late last week when the signs first appeared, the public notice signs first appeared along the property, and he was unaware of it. He spoke with other board members and confirmed to me that they were unaware of it. And in fact, the first time that this signing plan is ever going to be presented to the board is at this upcoming meeting, October 24th, because it's now been agendized for the very first time for them to present the details of this plan. Vice President Carnes of the Fairgrounds made a comment, compared it to that they wanted to do this first because that's how they had done it with the Skyhawk program, going to the county first. Well, there was a little difference there. He's comparing apples and pianos, because the A4 Skyhawk project, the A4 Skyhawk sat on county grounds and was in county possession. They had to go through the county first to know if they had a vehicle, an aircraft to move. It's completely irrelevant. The 32nd DAA board has not seen this plan. They have not approved this plan. They have not approved staff coming to the city with this plan. You asked if they could acquiesce. Neither Mr. Carnes nor Mr. Jacobson has that authority. That's why they kind of hemmed and hawed on that, because they've never gone to the board to ask for them for that authority. This plan, this should be just either denied without prejudice for them to bring it back again after they've gone to the board, or it should be at a minimum tabled for a couple of months so they can go and get their ducks in a row and get their horse literally in front of their cart. As for the justifications for it, I just ask you as planning commissioners to think about the logic of how signage, which is at the property boundary, is going to mitigate the traffic backups like we saw during the last fair, which were standing back blocks and blocks. Unless they're planning on putting up signs like they have at the Citadel in LA that are, the size of jumbotrons, they're not going to be broadcasting information back blocks and blocks, and it's going to have no effect on traffic. That's thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. I'm Reggie Mundicus from Friends Neighbors of the OC Fairgrounds, and I'd like to thank the Costa Mesa Planning Commission for having this hearing tonight so we can see the plans for the first time. I would just like to mention that I've attended nearly every Fair Board meeting for the last decade because the meetings are held on Thursday mornings when most people are at work. And I can say that when Mr. Carnes tried to tell you that he had talked to the Fair Board and presented about this, what he presented was like maybe a 4 or 5 sentence update on the status. They've never seen the drawings. They have no idea what's going on as far as the scope and the mass and the possible impacts on the neighbors and also the possible budget impacts. This project is premature, and I'd ask you to please deny it, possibly without prejudice, so you can bring it back when it's mature and ready to be discussed. There are multiple projects going on at the fairgrounds which would impact signage. There's currently an infrastructure analysis that may change usage of some of the property at the fairgrounds. There's also a rebranding effort that may change the nature of the signage desired. There's also a master site plan that's going to be coming up, which again, may change usage of the property. Wouldn't it make more sense to do a major gate signage project as part of a master site plan after there's been consensus on what is being changed and how it's being changed? No outreach has been done on this project. The neighbors don't know about it. Heck, even the board members didn't know about it. When I saw the plans for the first time on Thursday afternoon, I called Mr. Jacobson. He never returned my phone call. I emailed Mr. Jacobson and his supervisor, CEO Kathy Kramer, and they never got back to me with my to address my concerns. There is simply an unwillingness to deal with the public on issues that impact the community. We want to look, new signage may be needed, but it has to be part of a comprehensive plan to address the massive traffic backups that occurred during the OC Fair and during other events. This year, traffic on the 55 freeway was stopped up past the Paulo Reno exit at one point. And OCTA buses delivering people to the fair routed themselves through Mesa Del Mar. Mr. Carnes really didn't do anything to stop that, and I'm not even sure if he cares. We need to come back with comprehensive planning that will help reduce and better manage traffic and signage impacts on the neighbors, and then we can talk about it. So thank you very much for this time tonight. You're busy people, and please deny this because it's just not quite right yet. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Boyle, and I happen to live behind the gas station that was referred to earlier, so I would be directly impacted by this. I came here tonight because I was concerned after receiving in the mail a notification about any nighttime light pollution, and specifically its impact on my ability to sleep. I happen to live directly across the street from a car dealership for several years, so I can tell you with firsthand experience that bright lights in your face while you're trying to sleep don't help. I would like to say that the presentation was extremely helpful. I can't speak for anyone else. I'm not affiliated with any organization, so this is the first time I've seen those plans, or pictures, whatever you want to call them. So it was very informative and helpful. And I'm not necessarily opposed to the signs after seeing the guidelines or restrictions they were going to put on them, such as the automatic dimming at 9 p.m., the automatic shutoff at 10 p.m., the no advertisements, the no changing of colors, that sort of thing that would be very distracting. I'm a little uneasy about the height, and someone brought up earlier, how far is that light going to project itself across the city, because it is quite a tall sign. Provided that someone looks into that and they're satisfied with that, I don't think I have any objections per se. And as long as I have the opportunity, I'd like to suggest that maybe the other LED signs at the fairgrounds could be subjected to similar restrictions and guidelines. In particular, I'm thinking of the one on the corner of Fair and Fairview, which I find somewhat bright at night. Past that, the only other thing apart from the height that I would mention is I think it was approximately this time 1 year ago that winds blew over some trees just on the street out in front. And I do hope someone has considered the height and made sure that the signs are strong enough to withstand the very strong winds we get sometime. I see the remainder of my time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Greetings, Chairman, Commissioners, and staff. I'm Brian West. I'm a College Park homeowner. Like everybody else, I saw the drawings for the first time when you released the packet, and I wanted to talk about a couple different things. With regards to the staff, I love the work you guys do, but this packet was a little bit sloppy. Okay, tonight, the one slide that was presented had 33 square feet to the sign face. In the packet, it's 32. That's only one sign face of two, so those tables are understated. There's some inaccuracies that I think can be polished and made better. With regards to the traffic study, one of the commissioners mentioned that it was not attached. I would like to have seen that. Then with regards to the purpose of this is traffic and wayfinding. But what I didn't hear was any coordination done with Costa Mesa Police, who every year is hired to help direct traffic. And I'd like to suggest that you take this application, send it back, and ask for a joint consultation with Costa Mesa Police to ensure that the signage has the right verbiage and is placed in the right locations. That'll assist us with traffic, not just identifying which gates are open and which gates are closed. With regards to the signboards themselves, they're described in the drawings as unusually stunning, ultra high bright LEDs. And I get LEDs because you want to see them during the day, but it's exactly that same principle at night that creates a problem. I'm in a business where I build canopies over fueling stations. We have to do a photometric study on every single one to make sure that light doesn't escape outside of the canopy. Without a photometric study on these signs, you're setting yourselves up for a lot of complaints. It needs to be a requirement before this gets passed. With regards to, the hours operation. You've got one set of hours in the conditions of approval, but light changes over the course of a year. There are photovoltaics that will automatically start the dimming process if you go to winter versus summer. At a minimum, the hours of operations have to be down to seasonal and if not quarterly to change the lighting. Basically, I'd like to ask that you defer this until the photometric study is completed, until and the hours are seasonally adjusted, that the Costa Mesa Police Department has had a chance to weigh in on location and what works for their traffic control. It's kind of a shared messaging, not a shared sign, but shared messaging. And
Yes.
Tonight, on the conditions of approval that were shown, on the hours of operation, there was something added to that is not in the packet, and it was the red text in that particular slide. That's brand new tonight. I think that needs to get exercised. Thank you very much for the consideration. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes.
Beth Rufakis, Costa Mesa resident. This isn't exactly ready for prime time. Tonight, you would be approving things that you don't really know what the final design is, because they say it's going to be over a long period of time, depending on budgeting. They have a lot of things going on, master site plan, rebranding, other things which may wind up changing the design. So basically, you're not approving anything that's really a tangible design at this point in time. The other thing is that the Fair Board has not voted on this signing program at all. In fact, it isn't even being presented to the Fair Board until their next meeting, only as an informational item. So it won't be voted on at the next Fair Board meeting, which is on the 24th of this month. So I have a problem with that. Also, there's no light study to determine what kind of light spillage will affect the surrounding residents because of the height of the signs. And I can tell you, I'm a volunteer at the First Friday Roadshow, which we had a couple of weeks ago, and our show ends around 7:30, so we have to pack up everything. Our location is right on the other side of Gate 1. The sign, the LED sign there, was so bright, we didn't need any additional light to pick up all of our stuff because the sign was going off constantly. So it spreads light spillage all over the place. So I can imagine what's going to happen to residents in the neighborhood, especially without any kind of light study. And we all know LED lights are extremely bright, especially at night. And the other thing I have is I'm kind of confused about why the city logo is on the signage, because on state property, because it seems to me that this suggests that the city is involved in the LC Event Center operation, and I think that's very misleading to the public. It's nice to have a partnership, but I don't know why the city logo should be on their signage. The other thing is the parking study, and there's nothing current on the parking study or current traffic study to really identify where the problems are. And I don't see that the signage that they're proposing is going to solve that problem, especially when you have backups on the freeway. So I have a lot of concern about that. And the fact that they say, the staff says they want to be good neighbors. Well, if you don't have any public outreach to programs that you're going to implement that have a direct impact on the surrounding residents and the community, then you're just really giving lip service to the idea of being a good neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, hold on, Cynthia. There you go. The mic's live now.
All right. Cynthia McDonald, Costa Mesa resident. And
I am chair of the Bike Walk Committee. I'm not here speaking on their behalf, but so one of the primary responsibilities the city has to its residents is public safety, and we've talked about traffic safety, and I'm kind of surprised that, you know, bicyclists aren't being considered as part of that traffic. One of the biggest problems that cyclists have are being visible. You know, pedestrians, people in wheelchairs, we all seem to become invisible to motorists. I can put on a neon-colored vest, have bright flashing lights on my helmet and be waving a flag, and I'll have a motorist cut in front of me. And boom, you know what happens when a person comes in contact with a 2,000-pound vehicle. It's not pretty. So the Arlington Trail is a very important project for the city. People love that trail. I get comments all the time. I would like to see this trail everywhere in the city. I'm afraid to ride my bike. I feel safe on this trail. This trail is perfect. I don't want to discourage people from riding on this trail by putting up a 4-foot by 4-foot block wall that's going to impede the sight line of a car that's pulling out of a driveway. And if you look at pages 26, 29, 32 of the staff report, you're going to see how close that wall comes. Now, you know, granted, you are back a little ways from it, but it's still going to impede the view. You could put the signs up on poles, but those poles need to be moved away from the driveways. I believe that when the city adopted the standards for cell phone poles, that they had to be back from the driveways. So I think that standard should apply here. As far as the signage around Newport Boulevard, there's a lot of clutter over there. You know, if you're going to put a sign in with a billboard, I think the fair should consider removing the billboard because you're just not going to see the sign over there. It's going to get lost. And wayfinding is something that the city needs more of, but you don't want to run over someone on your way to the fair. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Evening. My name's Ralph Tabota, longtime resident. I'm also a member of the Bikeway and Walkability Committee, but I'm here speaking for myself. The Arlington Bioswale Trail has been a great addition to the city's network of bikeways and walking, and appreciate the fairgrounds cost sharing and getting in cooperation getting that built. I do have several concerns. Number one, I think, is the overall size of the signs. 25 feet, I believe, for the height, that seems to be unnecessarily tall. I think a lower height signs will actually be easier to read by motorists and provide better visibility for them as they find their way into the fairgrounds. I recommend signs have maximum height of 16 feet, and naturally the minimum vertical clearance must still be provided. The square footage of the sign itself, it's shown at 32 square feet, also appears to be too large. At approximately 7.5 feet by 4 feet, a rectangle, I would think that size should be reduced in proportion to the reduced height of the sign. Another issue that Cynthia brought up too, that is a prime concern, especially for us on the Bikeway and Walkability Committee, is safety. The large outside dimensions of the sign base and the aluminum cabinet pose a safety hazard and put pedestrians and cyclists at increased risk. As far as I could tell, the stone-faced bases are approximately 4 feet by 2.5 feet rectangle, and the aluminum cabinet is about 3 feet 9 by 2 feet rectangle. That just obliterates sight lines for the walkers and the cyclists on the trail, as well as the motorists and the cars exiting or entering the driveways. I think some type of pole with a much smaller diameter would be more appropriate and provide more visibility, or restrict the visibility less than what has been planned. also, let's see, also, I guess also, it seems like, and I didn't realize this, I listened to everybody speak, but I definitely think the fair has the cart before the horse here. If the board hasn't even seen plans, hasn't voted on this, it's too early to bring this to city council or city planning. And also, I think there's still an issue on the city's jurisdiction concerns that the attorney has. Final comment, I guess, is the addition of the bioswale trail has been greatly enhanced the look of Arlington and with the actual trail and landscaping. It has definitely beautified the area. Please don't ruin it with signs that are too large and therefore out of place. Also, keep safety first. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. I'm Rick Huffman, and I'm also on the Bikeway and Walkability Committee, and we saw these plans last week at our meeting. And the reason they were brought to us is so that we could review them for the safety issues that Cynthia and Ralph have talked about. And so I'd like to draw your attention to page 29 and 32 of the Planning Commission Agenda Report, if you have it. If you open up to page 29, there's 32, there's 29. So 29 is a great illustration of what the monument sign will look like next to Gate 5. And you can imagine a truck or a car exiting, looking to their right to see if there's a bike or a lady with a stroller walking along there. And if they're in a hurry, they're going to blast through there without maybe seeing somebody coming. So that base of the monument sign is over 4 feet wide. The aluminum is 3 foot 9 inches, but the base of the masonry extends beyond that. So it's like at least 4 foot 3 inch or something. And then it's just high enough to, if you're in a car and looking, you're at a level to where that masonry base is blocking your view. Go to page 32, which is at one of the other gates. Gate 8. This is all in Arlington with the bikeway, and you'll notice the same thing happening there. And so there's 3 or 4 of these that have this problem. Now, the ones that are at the corner of Fairview and Arlington, or the bigger intersections, there's more general visibility. But where the trail is on Arlington, this is really a significant problem. This stuck out like a sore thumb to all of us at the Bikeway and Walkability Committee, because this is what we specialize in going around the city and looking for these kinds of problems. I'm just flabbergasted that nobody else coming to make public comments until the Bikeway and Walkability Committee got here had even noticed any of this. It's because not too many people are out on their bikes, because the city is kind of a little dangerous. So now that let's make them even safer. Put these up on a pole so that you can see underneath. Thank you.
Mr. Huffman, Vice Chair Harlan has a quick question for you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So based on what you told us tonight, the Bikeway and Walkability Committee has seen these plans. Did the committee take a position on this signage program?
No, it was just, we just took the information under advisement. As far as I know, there was...
It was part of staff comments. It wasn't something that came under review, formal review of the committee.
So it wasn't an agenda item. It was just informational.
Okay, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Jack Lucas, College Park. I agree with the previous speakers. These signs are way too high. Going back in history, all the hard work that was done to clear out the blight in Costa Mesa of sign blight, especially on Harbor Boulevard. It seems like we're taking a step back to the 1950s with the size of these signs. And if you approve this tonight, I guarantee you OCC, which is in a growth pattern, we're going to hear the same application here. And if you go by Mr. Arias's calculations, they have the amount of land larger than the fairgrounds, so they're going to come and ask for probably 8 LED signs, because they're going to come up with the same rationale that their delivery trucks and all the same arguments that were presented tonight. So then we're going to have added up, and then Vanguard on top of that will want their own LED signs. So we're going to be an LED community around here. Right now, Fairview is still a fairly nice road to drive down compared to Harbor, and to me, we're going to have nothing but LED signs, and I don't think the community is going to like it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this item? Okay, I'll have the applicant come back up if you'd like to provide any closing remarks or rebuttals to what you have heard. And then there may be some questions for you as well.
Thank you. Would really like to thank everybody for their comments. It's really important to me. I too live in an area down the street in Santa Ana that's impacted by high schools and LEDs and noise, all kinds of similar issues. So I certainly understand. And it's something that I'm always keeping in mind with every project that we're doing. A couple things to kind of point out. The bike path obstruction concern, that was also our concern too. The previous gate identification signs that we had there were actually 6 feet wide. So this new footprint at the base is 4 feet, and then it tapers up. So it's actually a thinner profile than what we've had in the past. Currently, right now, with our temporary signs, they are, unfortunately, staff has been doubling up, trying to get more messages. So on occasion, we'll have 2 to 3 of these signs that could cover an 8 to 10 foot width, which I think almost makes a worst case scenario for some of the concern. The other thing I wanted to comment on was asked about the city logo. I know that was in partnership with city staff and why it was incorporated into the design itself. Did you have some?
I'd also like to thank everyone. When the issue of the first time you see something comes up, if we were here a month ago, that would have been the first time. At some point in time, it's the first time. But we're happy to be here and to hear all this public comment. There's been some very sage advice and comments given. Having photometrics done, that can absolutely happen. Even though we've made the base narrower in this design, reviewing the exiting off our property, and if the design may need to be altered or changed, again, we're not adverse to looking at that. As it relates to the budget and our board, what is currently approved through the 2018 and 2019 budget is $200,000. So when we get to the point that we're bidding this out and designing and bidding this out, we could have a substantial win with regards to moving traffic efficiently around the grounds. It will not address the issues happening on the highway, but it'll improve traffic around the grounds, get people to the right gates, not only at Fair, but year round. We can debate which would come first, what we bring to the board or what we get here in this public forum, which was the process that was given to us when we engaged with the city, and so we were all in on that. As it relates to communicating with our board, again, twice during the budget process. Again, in January, it was agendized, our entitled capital budget was agendized to request from our board what projects they wanted to be intimately involved with to be brought back to them. They identified 2 projects. This was not one. If they would like to be fully involved, of course, we will engage them to whatever level they direct staff to do, and we're happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more quick comment too on the signs, on all the signs. I know we met the requirements of the city in terms of traffic with the 10-foot location as it pertains to the street. So we made sure to work with all those numbers and all of the current site locations, all that's applied in each one of those.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any final questions for the applicant? Commissioner Zick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ken, I've got a question for you. And first of all, your comment about the first time somebody sees something is the first time, I totally get that. Sometimes the reaction about that, I'll get to my question, though, is if the first time I see it is a couple of days before an approval meeting, that's different than the first time I see it as at the first of several planned workshops.
I understand.
Okay. So my question to you, though, is based on all the comments that you heard and the concerns that you heard, did the thought go through your mind where you said, you know, I think I'd like to work on this a little bit more and address some of the concerns that I heard, and then maybe come back to the city with the final plan for their approval? Did that thought go through your mind?
Absolutely. Again, there was a lot of sage advice. This is the first time that we've gone through this process with the city. So, yeah, lessons learned, and if there's other things that we can address to improve upon and come back, we're happy to do that.
So if this was continued to a subsequent meeting, that's not something you'd have an objection to?
Oh, not at all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Russell.
I think this is very similar to the question you just got, which is, would you be open to having some meetings with the community to get clarification on what their concerns are, and also just to explain a little bit more of what some of the impacts are going to be?
Sure. Again, as articulated earlier, this is agendized for our October board meeting where the staff is going to give more updates. And again, I'm sure our board will give more direction as we continue to work through this. When we report out on this and tonight, I'm sure we'll come back in November with further direction from the city, further direction from our board to continue this process.
Commissioner Colbert.
Yeah, and this is more so of a comment than a question. I think you answered my earlier question about the potential continuation of this item, which is a great thing. My second comment more so is that I just want to be clear that what's before us is not a parking issue or a traffic issue, but a signage concern. And so that when we do, or if this item is continued and does come before us, that we'll be addressing signage and only signage. Just for clarification, while I appreciate the comments from the Bike and Ped Committee, I think that is something that we would like to take into strong consideration, and I hope they are a part of those conversations, as that's an important safety concern, especially as the comments related to the new trail. So I just want to be clear that we know that all things won't be solved by this, but like you said, this is a great start. We're glad you came before us and looking forward to the decisions that are made tonight.
Again, thank you very much.
Okay, I just have one more or less comment. Apart from some of the comments you heard this evening, and I don't know what the commission's going to decide, but relative to the signage design on Gate 10, which is the Newport Boulevard sign, I would absolutely not support a 25-foot sign. I think it creates all sorts of blight and conflicting visuals with the existing billboards. And my preference would be that it be very similar to the dimensions of the sign at the corner of Fair and Fairview, the southwest corner of Fair and Fairview. That one just didn't fly with me as soon as I saw it. It just was a lot of fighting going on with my eye. And that's just my comment. So I will thank you very much for your presentation tonight and for taking the time to answer our questions. I will close public comment, and I just have a couple of questions. I'll keep the public hearing open because I want to get some of this information on the record, and ask the city attorney if, by placing the city's logo on the sign, if something were to happen, does that automatically assume we might have some liability relative to a malfunction of the sign, or?
Thank you, Chair DiArcol. The simple placement of the city's sign on the actual state-owned property, that would not necessarily affect the liability should there be an accident. And whenever it's convenient for you, Chair, I'd like to sort of round out my comments regarding the authority of the city versus the authority of the state.
That would be great, and I have one more question relative to the encroachment permit because of the overhang of the sign into public right-of-way. My concern is, if that permit were granted, does then the fairgrounds assume all liability relative to that overhang, even if an incident occurred on city property or city right-of-way? Does the issuance of that encroachment permit essentially indemnify the city against any liability?
That would depend on the nature of the language of the encroachment permit. Simply issuing an encroachment permit by itself may not insulate from the required tort liability. But again, I'd have to look at the actual agreement itself to see what it said.
Okay, I would be very interested in that. I would hate to grant an encroachment permit and still have the city have some exposure to liability because the sign is overhanging the right-of-way. I would want the fairgrounds to indemnify the city against any kind of liability. But go ahead, Mr. Preziosi, on your follow-up comments.
Certainly. So just to round out that comment, we could also discuss this with the city engineer who is here tonight. As to the comments regarding the state's ability and the city's ability to exercise jurisdiction over respective properties. So as a matter of law in the government code, the city has no authority over state property, including the 32nd Agricultural District property. That's a matter of law. And really, not that the applicants said so, but even if they were to have made that statement, that alone would have not changed the nature of state law. Perhaps an MOU could be drafted between the 32nd Agricultural District and the city, should the city wish to approve these plans, which would subject them by agreement to the city's jurisdiction. But again, that MOU itself would not change the nature of the law, although it may provide a contractual remedy to the city should the city issue conditions of approval and then they not be followed.
And just as a follow-up question to that, assuming that the city and the 32nd Agricultural District entered into an MOU, would that agreement or that MOU be subject to potential scrutiny from the Attorney General with respect to whether or not he thought it was legal to enter an MOU like that?
Well, I think necessarily because the 32nd Agricultural District is represented by the Office of the Attorney General in their day-to-day transactional dealings, I would hope that he would be consulted as part of that, and if he did not feel that the 32nd Agricultural District had the authority to do this, that he would speak up.
Okay, and then the other question I had is, assuming an MOU, that would be strictly limited to this particular application, the signage program, but not to any other land use application that the 32nd might come forward with or decide on under their own jurisdiction at a later date.
Correct. I mean, the applicant, I mean, ideally it would just be limited to this, although if the city and the state wanted to have an MOU that covered other projects or future projects, they'd be free to do that. Also, I would note in terms of the signature authority, typically for an MOU, the MOU would be signed by both agencies' attorneys. That is by my office for the city as well as for the Attorney General for the 32nd Agricultural District.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioners, are there any other questions or comments related to that? Okay, then I will close the public hearing and ask the commissioners if they have any comments, motions on this item. Commissioner Zick, you look like you're ready to pull the trigger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to move that we continue this item to a date certain or date uncertain.
If you have a date in mind, you can continue to date certain. Otherwise, a date uncertain would be appropriate.
To a date uncertain, to give the applicant a time to work with their board and other stakeholders in the community that they have heard from. And then I have comments if there's a second.
Okay, Commissioner Zick, you made a motion to continue this to a date uncertain. I'm going to second the motion. I had a date in mind, but you may be right. There may be some processes that they want to go through. I was thinking perhaps our second meeting in November or first meeting in December, but we'll just leave it open-ended and staff will know when to bring it back to us if they're ready to go. So anyway, your motion's been seconded if you have comments.
I do, thank you. So as I kind of see this item and the way it's unfolded before us and the comments and input from the community, I see it largely as an issue of process, not, and I wouldn't even characterize it as cart before the horse. To me, it feels a little bit like maybe not a clear-cut process, and it becomes a little clearer when you try to accomplish something and then people hear about it and then they want to get involved, and you might not have even thought there were people out there that wanted to get involved. I'm impressed with the work that Jason has done, but what I'm particularly impressed about is that both Jason and Ken want the involvement, want the input of the community, want the board on their side and involved, and without hesitation have agreed to take this back and work. So it's not one side against the other. It's just going back, getting more people involved, and improving on the work that you've already done. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioners. Any comment? Commissioner Russell and then Commissioner Colbert.
Yeah, it seems like it's the beginning of a process as opposed to the end of a process. And it seems from my observation is that you weren't quite sure what it was how this was going to really work. And so you kind of jumped in. And now that you're seeing what needs to be done, being amenable to doing that, I would just recommend that you look at having some kind of a public meeting to get the stakeholders involved over the next, I don't know what period of time to set it up. Just as, I mean, there's the Bikeability Committee. I think lighting's an issue. Just to find, it may turn out that that things like the lighting aren't going to really impact any residents, but we don't know that. And so having that conversation, I think will be helpful. And I think we appreciate, given the size of the fairgrounds and the impact it has on the community, your willingness to be good neighbors. So thank you for that.
Commissioner Colbert. Okay, Vice Chair, do you have any comments? Okay, so I've got a few. I think in the broad sweep of things from 10,000 feet, if I look at this design, other than I don't like the height of the one on Newport Boulevard, it really doesn't bother me, the design aspects of any of this. It feels rushed to me, this process. And I don't know why, but I think we can slow down and take a little bit of time to breathe. I appreciate the applicant's willingness to kind of say, okay, let's talk to some of the folks who have expressed concerns. I definitely think that the Fair Board needs to weigh in a little more detail because it is going to have some influence on the environment and the community with respect, I think, particularly to lighting. I don't think from an aesthetic standpoint these are going to be particularly impactful visually, other than the one on Newport Boulevard. And I think the photometrics are important. I think the sign, the 25-foot sign at Gate 2 has the real potential from a sightline standpoint to impact some of these residences at Fair and Fairview, at Vanguard, and also at the very southeastern edge of College Park. And I think that needs to be looked at. Beyond that, I want to say that Costa Mesa is very fortunate to have the 32nd Agricultural District and the fairgrounds as a neighbor. It is a huge economic engine for the city. And while I understand that we are put through some difficulty every summer with the fair, you know, if I can put it in sequent terms, the overriding considerations economically of what the fair produces for Costa Mesa, I think, is worth a little bit of the pain. In fact, I live in Mesa Del Mar. I know exactly the bumper-to-bumper situation that occurred. It was like either the last day of the fair or the day before, and it was the only time it happened. I live on Drake, and we never had a parking problem. On-street parking was clear, free and clear the whole time. For the fair. We didn't have any parking problems on Drake, at least on Drake. I don't know about the rest of Mesa Del Mar further west on Presidio. But the permit program seems to work fairly well. So from a parking standpoint within Mesa Del Mar, in my neck of the woods, we had zero problems, except for that one last night. And it lasted like 10 minutes. It was weird. It just, they all queued up and we wondered what was going on, and attempted to go out and hand somebody some water if it was too hot, but they moved through. So I just want to say that sometimes I feel like there are groups, and I'm not singling out anybody here tonight, who kind of try to create antagonism between the 32nd District and the city, and I don't like that. I think we work pretty well together. And so I don't like kind of like the stepchild coming in and see if they can have brother and sister get ticked off at each other. So I appreciate what you're trying to do here. I would strongly suggest that you work with your board and the community to kind of iron out the concerns. I don't think they're going to be that difficult to iron out. And then, you know, I appreciate it. I would rather be involved in the process. I mean, I perfectly understand your authority. If you decide to push these signs back a little bit and not have it on any public right of way, we have no say. So I'd rather have a little bit of say. And have you just work for a couple of months with your board and the community and see what we can come up with, and then come back to us, hopefully before the year's out. So with that, I will call for the question. Are we all good?
Yeah.
Do we need to clear the board again? It's all right. I can't tell you how many times somebody said yes in my household when they meant no. This is a motion to continue, sir. I understand that. Don't worry about it.
Motion carried 5-0 with Commissioner Torje absent.
Thank you. So I don't think that's subject to City Council appeal, is it? Continuance? Okay. So thank you very much. And folks, let's work together and see if we can find a solution on that one. Okay. Public services, any reports tonight, sir?
No reports tonight.
Okay. Development services, Mr. Curtis.
None this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. City Attorney, Mr. Preziosi.
Nothing, Chair.
Okay, so we will then stand adjourned, and we have a little bit of a schedule rearrangement due to the holidays and various other things like lack of business. We're not going to be meeting October 28th or November 11th, so we will adjourn the Planning Commission meeting to the, November 14th is when we'll have our next meeting. Thank you and good night.